Oh wow, dude, she's like farted blood out. She's like, blah. And that's like cool. Oh shit.
He's coming out of the glory hole.
Get back in your glory hole, chicken.
The cock is going in the glory hole.
It's Sylvia Thasha. Cock beats Yule.
Yeah, beat his ass, beat his ass. Oh, glory hole.
He's in it. Zordon, he's coming out of some sort of galactic glory hole.
Oh, fuck.
It was like 18 gigs for me, I think, on my PlayStation.
Blake,
Something crazy like that.
Hey, what's up, your boy? How you doing?
If any of you take on any damage, get back
Hope
to
you
me
was good.
ASAP, and I'll help you out.
Brother!
I'm not carrying any dead bodies back.
I have the recessive genes.
I'm locked, loaded, and ready to make shit dig.
Just about ready. Chapstick. My water's full. Almost.
Do the anime voice competition thing right now. We're gonna be super
Oni-chan.
Oni-chan! Chotomate, iku!
Uru uru.
Alright. Let's go. Close YouTube. Go. Hello. Hey guys, well, you guys can't tell, but I think I fixed the screen tearing that was happening on my end. At least I hope so. Don't got much longer before I get out of work. Probably gonna stream more when I get home. Nice, nice. Is it gonna be more, what the fuck do you call it? Just Detroit Become Human? Actually, this looks good. It's not really screen tearing right now. I think I did fix it. Oh. I think that would be it. Yeah, let me see. Yep. Alright. At 3:18 a.m. Jeez. Detroit Become Human. Detroit B becoming human. Kidding. How's work, man? Wrecked ship. Mia walks the debris-ridden landscape and finds Ethan lying on the ground. He's taken away suddenly by a giant black blob. Then she's followed into the wreck. Oh, then she then follows straight into the wreck. Yep. Oh shit, that's right.
Now do you remember?
Okay, I'm really glad I don't have to redo this.
I remember.
For a second, I thought they were gonna make me do it again.
No, Evie. You can't be.
Alright, same old, kicking people out of the dumpsters behind the Dollar General.
We will never be
Feel it.
a family.
Then I don't need you anymore.
Oh, damn. Wasn't ready. Alright, cool. I'm guessing I go this way now. I think that was locked before. Find the box for nothing. See, the screen tearing's back too. Fuck it. Do it live! So, yeah. Can a motherfucker get some ammo? It's like motion blur. You guys can't tell. It's doing it for me. Thought I fixed it, but I guess not. Fine. Contents have been taken. E-neck toxin. Destroy CC anybody subjected. E-series bio. Only disposal of assets? I don't know. Fuck it. I ain't gonna try. Ammo. Por favor. Por favor. Gunpowder. Always nice. Yes. Oh, wait. Fuck, that was in the flashback. No. Arnar. Alright. Actually, yeah. Oh. Should I just use it now? R&R. What up, Cash Cow? How you doing, bud? You playing your Zelda? Sleepy. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I shouldn't be doing this right now. I should be resting, getting my little beauty rest. I'm so close. About to head to my shoot. Oh man. It's so late. You gotta tell us how it is. Did you at least nap? Oh, you did. Yeah, yeah. You said after work, you're just gonna pass out. Hope you got some meaningful rest. Let's go up first. I've had 3 energy drinks at the ready. Okay, nice. Dude, those come clutch. What's your energy drink of choice? I forget. I think Monster is the best, but I actually do like Red Bull. Couldn't sleep. Ooh. You got this. You got this. Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. I'm gonna go in the elevator first because I'm scared. Actually, no. No, I ain't never scared. Even though I do need a gun. Badly. I got this. Yeah, you do. Like, I hope I'm still not avoiding these assholes and I actually have... Well, give me the weapon. Little tip, if you drink Monster coffee and eat 3 block squares, just stay up for 24 hours if you want. What's a block square? I don't think I know that one. I own that, but god damn it, I'm broke. Okay, I'll deal with you later. Oh, cool. Open. Ooh, and see you. Nice, nice. Remote bomb, that'll come in handy. Alright. People that make Cliff Bars and energy bars make these things called blocks. They're gummies that give you energy. I've never heard of those. I'll have to look into it. Your boy be crashing around anywhere from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I have to take a walk, get a coffee. Or if I'm at the office, I'll fucking take a Monster. Those seem to help. Okay, I don't even have a knife. God damn it. I'll come back for you. You never heard of Cliff Bars? No, I've heard of Cliff Bars. I've never heard of the block square things you're talking about. Gummies. I never heard of the gummies. Yep, let's go this way. I hope I find a gun. Like, I hope I'm not... Okay, there it is. Fuck! What's up, my cracker? Hey, what up, Lemon? How you doing? I'm taking sleep gummies when I get back tomorrow morning. Sleeping, yeah. Nice, dude. I'm sure that helps. You know what's funny? When I used to dog sit, there was one time when I don't want to say their names on stream, but the other people I would, house sit for, they left me some gummies, and those knocked me the fuck out. And they weren't even nighttime gummies. What up, Lemon? How you doing? Are you diving tonight? Oh, where's the key? it's time to go in the elevator. Oh. I'm at the part where you became a quitter, Lemon. Yeah, people want to dive. I might after this. We'll see. I have like a couple hours left. Tops. I have to finish what I'm doing here, and then I go to the mines, and then boss fight, and then I think we out you. Blah, blah. Yeah, go the fuck. The elevator ain't working. How is it? Did you get the Halo shit? No, it's locked over here. What am I doing? I'm tripping. Yeah, this is locked down here. So I can't go down there. Elevator might kill me if I drop there. How did I get in here? Did I? Oh, I dropped through the ceiling, didn't I? Alright, I should be fine. She's a big... I was gonna say big kid and a big girl at the same time. She's a big good. Woo! Okay, see, I'm fine. I'm fine. I remember choosing to quit. I just kind of never went back to it. It do be like that sometimes, actually. That's me in like half the games I play. You know, it's like, it's not that I dislike it. It's not that I don't want to finish it. It's not that I'm not gonna. I just, you know, ooh, piece of candy, and I just walked away. I'll be back. I'll be back. Your monsters. Table completely fried. We have a replacement, but sick bay. Is he above or below? You spooky. I only quit bad games like RE2. Fuck you. But we had to use it to fix something in the 3rd floor sick bay. You're gonna have to ask Dr. Waddle for it. I'm needed down in the number 2 engine room, but I can't get down there. Get this thing working. 3rd floor sick bay. All right. Fuck. 3rd floor sick bay. Also, I should just use this. Not including Resident Evil 6. Which Resident Evil is your favorite? Oh, so I need the fuck. God damn it! Right. What's over here? Let me just check. Halo stuff is cool, but only worth buying if you really value the roleplay. Honestly, I'm more invested in being a diver than a fucking ODST. So my role, I'll just be like, cool, you know. But my heart lies with Helldivers 2. I'm playing Helldivers 2. 6 is the only right answer. Is 6 your favorite too, you boy? All right, yeah, this is that locked door. I'm just covering my bases, you know. I think I know where I have to go. I really want to find a gun first. The game's being mean to me. Oh, I thought I would unlock it from this side. Oops. I think I do have to actually go to the 2nd floor. Oh wait, where did that one dude say he was going? Files, mechanics memo. I'm needed down in the number 2 engine room. Can't get down there unless we get this thing working. Okay, never mind. It's my favorite just because it feels like non-stop action in a lot of the animated Resident Evil movies. And you feel like a Chad. Yeah, that's fair. And it's true. That game, when done right, that game could be an actual like power trip. It's pretty good. Like it's fucking stupid, but the action is so cool. Alright, I'm gonna go on level 2. You guys are scaring me. But I did find some stuff, so I'm gonna save just to be safe and make myself feel a little bit better. RE8, because it's the only one. Lady T. You did like 8. I think you played that like a few times. I mean, no, I assumed you would have said RE4 remake. I would have guessed that one for you. But I think, you know, your horniness probably trumps the rule of cool, so which I don't blame you. All right. Where am I going first? I need to go to, let me try the bunker room. Give me a fucking gun. I need a key. Follow me, don't follow me. Can't see me. Yes! I don't think I'm supposed to have this. But it's because I beat the game. Wait, get that. When you want to team up and play Castle Crashers? Oh yeah, I need to check to see if I have it. Let me do that and I'll get back to you. I need to get paid and then I can buy it if I don't already. I have it somewhere. It's either on Steam or it's on PlayStation. Or it could be on Xbox One. But I need to actually check. Thanks for reminding me. Special Operations Division, Director Alan Droney and Caretaker Meal Winners. Oh, did I read this? Recent reports suggest that if Evelyn remains at her current location, she is at a high risk of being stolen by opposing organizations. Your orders, therefore. I did read this. Yeah. Dispose of Evelyn. Evelyn. A is ironically really good, but 4 remake tops it, I think. I prefer RE in third person. Well, you could play RE8 in third person, even though it's not as good that way. Hi, BB. It would be on PS5 if you want to play the same servers. I'll get the online for PlayStation if you seriously want to play. Well, like I said, let me get back to you and see if I have it. Also, it depends on when, because I'm also supposed to be playing RE fucking Mario with Solid 101. But I'll book you in. That's I feel like I have to live my life now. To check my calendar. A disgusting adult. Wasn't supposed to be like this. Alright, I should be okay, I think. I got the defense thing, right? Yep. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? Okay, so we went this way a little bit. Ooh. He was out here. He's gonna jump scare me. Bitch. Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to have this gun, technically. I unlocked it. Cool, escape route. Well now I got an actual setup where I can play games, so I can be booked in for online gaming and make clips. I already made like 8 clips from the video games I've been playing since I got a new setup. Hell yeah, dude. Got that new console smell. Been in here? Whoa. Oh shit. Ah! No, no. Do it, you bitch! Okay. Ah! Okay, alright. I wish I had fucking that cat, Ah! What? Oh, what up, Jay? Thanks for the sub. I wish I was playing with mouse right now. Just saying. I'm late, start over? Okay, alright. How's your night going? Are you playing, Sword Art Online? Not Sword Art Online. Oh, Fantasy Star Online. Funny. The fuck are the guns at? Lock it. Okay, so it is unlocked. Let me walk over here. Now I'm playing Neptuna. Hell yeah. Right on, brother. I'm for sure beating this tonight. And depending on when, I might start the DLC. I should start the DLC. Isn't the DLC only like an hour each? Something like that. Oh, need a key card. Or some shit. Got it with the blinds again. Oh, I already opened that. Moving on, and we're moving. Let me go check the bunk room. I thought I did. Oh. Oh. Hi. Ah, shit. Oh, fuck, that hit me. Wait, wait! Try reload. I think he's dead. I'm eating something tonight too. Your wife and kids. You don't say that. I limp. Actually, I never noticed. I'm limping. Just like in classic RE. Did I always limp? Or am I just that good I never noticed? I just didn't notice. I need medicine. I got a boo-boo. Got a boo-boo. Oh, fuck. That, okay, that got me. That scared me. Can you open the door? Actually, I'm gonna come over here. Fuck, I flinched. Gotta go in there. He's gonna attack me. This is cheap. Oh, you know what? I got something for your ass, motherfucker. What's left? Okay. Did the door really block it? I think the door blocked it. Oh my god! She just reloaded just because all the ammo I fucking lost now. That gun sounds cool as hell. Kind of reminds me of the shotgun from No Country for Old Men. Oh, that like gas gun thing? Yeah. I have to rewatch that movie. I do hear it. Yes! Ah, yeah. Alright, and then what does this say? 16 years since the Nightmare of Raccoon City, the survivors are still suffering. Bet. This gun does sound pretty dope. Let's go that way. Even though there are other rooms, right? I have to get to the sick bay to get what I need, but maybe, just maybe, there's another one of these in here, and I get extra like ammo and health and shit. Now, it was a regular shotgun, just with a ridiculous suppressor on it. Is that what it was? Oh, I need this anyway. Captain's. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Now I can get that machine gun in there. I think it was a machine gun. Smoke bomb. Okay, this is worth it. Oddish escape. That's fine. Bye, Oddish. Now. Wait, where's the? Not called like okay, fucking 4th floor. I got there through here. Right? I don't remember how to get to the 4th floor. I mean, he had the cattle prod thing too, which was air compressed. I gotta add that to the list of movies that we say we're gonna watch, but we never do. Also, when's your next drill? Yeah, right here. shit! No! Ah! Dude, that was good. That was good. Oh fuck. Okay. Motherfucker, stop jumping. Oh, you fucking. No! Oh man, dude, I heard that audio. I was like, what? Turn around. That got me. Bravo. Next month, the 10th, I think I'll have to double check. Okay. Fuck. How far back did that send me? Control room. I think do I have the key? I do. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so I saved right here. Fuck. All right. And I have more of those bombs. Cherry, fuck off with the blinds. All right. Don't scare me. Fuck. Headshot. No! I'm gonna die. That's okay. I could just fucking make a beeline for the captain's room. Can I? Baka. Okay, fuck. Way he moved, I thought he was gonna like give me like a fucking uppercut. Alright, well, a slightly better situation. Food. I'll give you a bit more. Hold on, be right back. Oh, she's whining at me. Alright, let's kill the little one. Back here! Back here, you son of a bitch! I'm not afraid of you anymore! Oh wait, well now where do I go? I got this. There's still another key I think I need. Control room? Fuck. I'm gonna keep looting. Yeah, so... Locked. Is it? Hold on, what was over here again? Sorry, I have like no sense of direction. Oh yeah, yeah, that is... Oh, fuck! Your boy, you scared me! Your boy? No! Fuck. That got me. Little fucking pussy tonight, man. Oh, can I go first floor? Oh yeah, I can, now that I have the means to defend myself. Few of them, okay. Being a silly goose. I think that actually hurt me. Alright, wish me luck. Some of these get. Oh shit! Oh shit. That hurt a lot. Fucking please die. Okay. Oh shit. Okay, he's dead. Can I get in there? No. Bring it on, motherfuckers! This. What is this? I open it? I got something out of pocket? What is this? Okay. Thanks, game. This is really important. Amazon River Cruise Guide. Oh, Beauty in the Black Lagoon. With you invading their home, you have become the Resident Evil. Dear Janet, hey, how's it going? I guess half a year or so will have passed by the time you get this letter. Life is so boring here. Day by day, just the same old sea. Although there's one thing that's different. By this time, we have some passengers sailing with us, which hardly ever happens. Couple with a little girl. I think they're distant relatives of the captain. Imagine traveling on a tanker instead of a passage ship. They must be hard up. I tried talking to the little girl earlier and her dad shot me this nasty look. What are you so worried about? Now I think about it, the captain said he didn't even have any relatives. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Miss you. Love, Jim. Oh. Room as useless as it seems. Yes. Yes. I'm gonna go to the recreational room. Oh, wait, what's in there? Laundry room? Not yet. Wee woo. Wee woo. Yeah, there's someone definitely in there. What? We good? Oh shit, we good. Alright. Actually, no, because the second I grab that, the enemies are gonna start showing up, I bet. Go in stock room. You know, that beep is low-key annoying. That's better than nothing, but I would like some chemicals.
I'm sorry.
A little baby.
I'm a little baby. I'm a baby. I have no money. I can pay you in blocks. No. I'm a baby.
This show's fucking amazing. Oh, I do have chemicals. Now's the time. Alright, can I pick it up? Or... no, leave it for now, Joey. No, I'm picking it up. Just pick it up and regret it. Hey, what up, Paul? How you doing? Right to jail. Right to jail. Yep. Right to jail. Oh, funny enough, right to jail. Yeah, I see fuses and shit. Something. Thank you. Gun ammo. Not with the way I'm playing. But the next one. Alright. And I saw a fuse in the wall over here. Yeah, I know. They're gonna do it. Hey, can I go in here? What's in here? Oh, yeah. Okay, okay. Okay, I'm just overthinking. It just crossed my mind. Did they establish how you're carrying your light source? I don't know, probably like a shoulder mount. That's what I imagine. Flashlight in the mouth. Yeah, it's canon. No, yeah, I think she's wearing one of these, and these have flashlights on them. Imagine you're carrying your flashlight in your mouth. Nice. Great minds. It's too late for us, but at least I can let the world know what happened here. I was on my night shift yesterday, so I was taking a nap at the bunk room around noon. I was half asleep. I heard a kid, a little girl, laughing. Or was all that in my head? I woke up at 19:30. There was some sort of ruckus in the passageway. Drew, one of the engineers, came in and said there was something going on down below. Maybe you're right. He looked pale in the face. He told me he was going down to check it out, but he never came back. It must have been around 1950 when I heard the scream. I went to the laundry room to check and saw Clark being eaten by some sort of blackish monster. Racist. The monster started coming towards me. Huge, shark-like teeth coming out of its jaw. I just screamed like a little girl and ran for it. Now I'm hurtled up in the bunk room, shaking as I write this. There's a whole host of these creatures lurking in the passageways now. I can still hear screams now and then, but there's no way of going out there now. That's it. I read everything I know. Giovanni Finetti. Joey can take one of those large police mags down his throat. You know it. So that's light work. Wait, so maintenance room that was locked? Yeah. Climb up? Not yet. What's in there? Also, I think I have to unlock the second floor one through here. Let me just double check that while I'm here. Mag light work. Haha. Yeah, let me just put that back there for a sec. I think I can unlock this door from here. Or is it the other way? Okay. It's already unlocked. I'm an idiot. But it was red there, so I assumed. Tie run to escaped. Nice. Not nice. Nice. Check. In case there's anything that the psychostimulants will pick up. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cheat real quick. Check this out. Anything on this floor? Oh, no. Let's see. You believe that in the Middle Age? Oh, wait, I didn't save yet. I just wasted those. God damn it, Joey. That's fine. I don't need psychostimulants. Drugs are for losers. Can't believe I wasted those. It's fine. Oh, I'm stupid. Let's go. Let's just save now. Fuck it! Ballin'. Now I think I do actually have to go to the second floor. Oh wait, where do those stairs take me? Oh, totally our stairs right here. Drugs are for losers unless you're Captain America, then you're doing drugs for America. Fuck. Kick it. Kick it, Mia. Use your mama bird strength. Adrenaline! My baby's in there! Fine. Be that way. No. Okay, so next up. We get to the second floor. Was it here? One of these said climb up. Stuff in there for sure. Oh, nice. What's over here? Remember the lady that left to the car? Yeah. To save her kid? That's what I was referencing. Exactamundo. Where the fuck was the... I'll just take the elevator. On the second floor. Searching. I didn't even see that knife there. Yeah, I'm gonna look for that fuse box. I don't remember where it was. Do you remember where the fuse box was? I don't remember where that connects in. But let me keep going. Just gonna check each floor going up. Oh yeah, there was this, but I need a key card. Key card. Fuse box usually either in the basement or closet of some sort of the house on the layout. Yeah, but what about a boat with level designers? Scenario writers. Stairs. Oh yeah. Maybe honestly, with my aim, it's probably not the best to keep this gun. You know, it packs a punch. Or I can just get good. Yo, when I get Gears Remake, I can co-op it? Yeah, when's it out? I was gonna pick it up next week or so. Wait, is it out that soon? Is it out now? Now I think, just saw a review. Cool. Let's check the third floor. Actually, let me... I'm lost. Yeah, it's fine. I'll figure it out. I always do. Let me check this ladder, though. Came out on the 26th? Yesterday. It's cool. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. What else we got in here? Is that it? Dang. Oh, shit. I was gonna get Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, but I heard it runs like shit, so I'm gonna wait. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna wait till they fix that shit. Damn it. Believe in them. It's like that scene in the Beavis and Butthead movie when they start like when the bad guy starts losing his shit and he's like, they did it to me again, and just starts like tearing his room apart. And Capcom. I mean Konami. We can play the game mode I used to play when Gear or 2 came out on 360. It's called Michael Myers. Mode Michael Myers. I never heard of this. Where was the locked? Fourth floor. Okay. Can I access the fourth floor from here yet? Did I unlock that? I have to use the elevator. Let's go through the elevator. It's fine. Wait. Wait. Okay, I was like... What a thrill. With darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill. I hear you. Oh shit, okay. You need at least 4 people to play. Wait, is it not the 4? God damn it! It's on the 3rd floor. Why am I like this? Fuck. One person can only walk in short bursts. He has to try to chainsaw you when he gets down. The last person, then the survivor can try to chainsaw the person playing Michael Myers. I've never heard of this game mode. Sounds interesting. Bursts off. See if that door over here is still locked or something, or if it needs the fuse. Oh, that's right. And then this guy. Oh, fuck it. Do I have a knife on me? I do. Yeah. All right, worth it. Now I'm going down to the 3rd fucking floor. Whee. I'm glad I don't take damage from that. Nope, other way. That should be absolutely not worth it. Muffin! Oh shit, hey Muffin! Thank you so much for the raid! Wow. Muffin raid! Thank you so much! How was your stream? Hi everybody. Chat. Muffin! Wait, I hear monster. I hear monster. Ah! Hold on. Ah! Oh. Oh my god, that clip scared me. What that clip take so long? Hello. Hi everybody, my name's Shattered Limit. I'm a variety streamer. I play a lot of Resident Evil. I'm trying to be better at it because I get distracted, but we're in the end game now. Hi Muffin. Clench your booty holes. Hey, what up, Sep? Sap! Yeah, my booty hole's always clenched. So there's something cool. It was good. I wanted to watch RE7. Nice. Nice. RE7 is a damn good game. I think I kind of know where I'm supposed to go now. Maybe, sort of. I need to find the fuse box, and I don't remember where it was. Alright, working our way down. I'm not going to get distracted. It wasn't on the bridge, was it? I don't think it was on the bridge. If somebody wants to, I don't know, Google it, wouldn't be mad at them. RE7 is good, but it's no RE6. You bite your tongue. Do you still have the little film you made? Little film I made? What are you talking about? Talking about the Max Payne thing. RE6 is a masterpiece. RE6 is good, but it's good. It's good. It's really good. The one with your kitty. Oh yeah, the Max Payne one. Yeah, that was Max Payne. I was like, which one? Yeah, I do. What a bloody Shattered Limit. Can we get a fit check for Muffin 45? Sure, man. It is a. I'm wearing Evil Within 2 shirt. some pajama pants. What up, Muffin? And what up, Bloody? Sorry, I read your comment. Why is it doing the same clip? No time to explain. I have an emergency. I need Muffin to DM me some nudes ASAP. Ow, ow. My brain's fried. I can't compute. Jay. Show us your ass. For that, you're gonna have to check out my OnlyFans.
No.
Alright, hold on. I'm looking for...
Oh my god. Oh my.
Looking for where the fuck I gotta put that fuse. So I'm gonna go in each hall. Just check, okay? Do a circle. I'm not gonna get turned around. I'm not gonna get distracted. I'm gonna be focused, okay? You've never seen a more focused Joey. Oh, that's funny. You actually did look for the OnlyFans. I should rickroll people for that. Like, I have a link that says my OnlyFans and it takes you to the... I should do... I'm gonna do that. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, wait, that's the elevator that I need. Wait, in there? Yeah, it is in there. God damn, I have like 0 sense of direction. Yo, Frank! Bloody bastard! Fuck you, bloody! Bloody fuck you! Alright, I think this is the floor where I got the fuse. It's on that dirty door. We're checking. Log, we checking. Instead of being a regular Rickroll, it should be one of those jib jab old school videos with your head on Rick's body. Oh, oh, Rickroll. Okay, okay. I was thinking about Rick from Walking Dead, like a nerd. Oh no, no. Ooh. What's up, my boy? Watch, I'm gonna Google it, and I'm gonna be like, it's right there. It's probably first floor. Let me check first floor again. I don't know where to put it. You can't keep getting away with this. Coral. Exactly. You know. Oh. Nothing. Wait, do I need 2 fuses? A cable. Oh, where's the cable at? Where's the cable? Tight,
yeah.
Where the fuck is the cable? In the office? Or this 3. Oh yeah, that's what I got here. The fuck? Maybe it's in the office. Don't judge me.
No, 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 no. Wait, 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 wait. Wait, 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 wait.
I knew that. I knew that. Big brain, everybody. Oral. I totes knew that. You streaming tonight, Bloody? Oh, I have to get into that shaft, actually. Oh. Okay, alright, alright. I'm not getting lost anymore. Rick kicked me into the garage. Oh, why should you do that? I think I have to get into the shaft and then... Okay, alright. Alright. So I have to get to the sick bay. That's where I have to go. And I think... I have to go this way. Tried to make her watch the goat scene from Alien. That scene was cool, dude. I just saw episode 4 yesterday. Yeah, dude, that scene was sick. Potential spoilers for Alien Earth, everybody. You should watch it. It's good. But yeah, that goat scene was, or a sheep or whatever the fuck it was. Saw that and I was like, well played, game. Well played. Oh, fuck, it's telling me where that was found. How do I? How do and where do? Where do I get to the sick bay? Control room. Fucker. I really shouldn't have used that corrosive. No. Sorry, everybody. I usually don't cheat, but I'm fucking. I am upset. Muffin lied.
I'm upset.
Muffin lied about what? Oh, about me being a good streamer? I believe it. She didn't send nudes. Oh. I didn't know she said she sent them. You got bamboozled, haha. Aha. Let's try. Yeah, that's. Fuck! I don't want to look it up anymore. Oh. Locked safe. Move the paintings. Oh, there's a whole puzzle I'm not even doing. You got bamboozled. Is that Electronic Gaming Monthly's 1996 handheld of the year? Bloody Cortex. That's the very one. Man, that was a mouthful. I like that one. Okay, locked safe. Where is that? Is it office? No, it's like the kitchen or something like that. What was it? It wasn't the stock room. It wasn't the laundry room. It wasn't the bunk room. I don't think it was the maintenance room. Guest room. Okay, let's try that. Also, it's fucking hot in here. I should turn on the AC. Dying. You know who else likes a mouthful? My mom. Is that what? Oh fuck, that's a crate, no lock safe. God damn it. Room, office, control room, security room, lounge. Boathouse. Second floor. Okay, all right. Doesn't say boathouses. Oh, lounge. Okay, all right. At least we're on the right floor. I didn't want to have to do that. Okay, yeah, I didn't know I could move these bright ass paintings. Okay, how do I control them though? Okay. Like that easy? Oh. Oh, she sent them to me by accident. Yes, it is. I'll be doing autographs this weekend. Look at all that corrosive. Alright. Alright, now we business, everybody. Let me go actually go drop off that coin because it's wasting space because there's nothing I can really use it right now on. And then we're gonna proceed. I know where to go. I think I'm gonna stream the Halo campaign. It's been a while since I played and want to join. Oh, I can probably hop in every now and then, but not right now. I can play tonight. Because I actually still need to play Infinite. But yeah, Halo does sound fun. What difficulty are we gonna play on? Fuck no, not tonight. Okay, I had to check. I had to be sure. Is this gonna be before or after Gears? Alright, cool. And now I gotta get to just the 3rd floor, right? Okay, let's get to the elevator again. Wait, is it 2nd or? Okay, just checking. Okay, there's the recreation room on 1st floor. Okay, good. What got there? Oh, I accidentally. Move! Wrong way. Always the wrong way. I mean, that's a lot of game to get through, so probably just normal. Legendary could be fun for the rage, though. No. Halo 1, yeah. Halo 2, fuck that. Game's actively harder on Legendary multi-co-op. Nice, I needed that. Nice. Now, ever since Jay said he does it, I started doing the Marcus Phoenix nice. Nice. Get we armed, everybody. Strapped. Got that thing on me. Could I use corrosive on that door? On the stairs? Probably not. I think so. No. Weird. Elevator. Side. I'll probably start Halo tomorrow. Just let me know when you get Gears and we can do that whenever you want. Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, Helldivers, we gotta get on that soon. I'm really glad. I was totally gonna leave the 2nd floor. You have to go to the 3rd floor, right? Yep, that's where I gotta go. I'm out of options. Okay, so yeah, there's no. But yeah, I'm excited to play that. Man, I have to squeeze everybody into my schedule. My schedule. I still need to play Castle Crashers with your boy. Do you have Castle Crashers on PlayStation, Lemon? Wait, how's my inventory? Okay, perfect. Beautiful. What difficulty are we doing on Gears? At least hard. I know they have that bullshit, like, where it's just constant, like, bullet spongy grubs, and we're just as squishy as ever. I kind of hate that. We just have to see. It said shaft. Nice. Locked. Fine. All games with me won't be until a minimum of next week. I'm gonna get online when I get my next paycheck. Till then, I can't do any multiplayer stuff. All right. Man, remember when PlayStation had free online? I do. I want a shotgun. Oh yeah, enemies in Gears are already chunky. Yeah, they are. Quit playing games with my heart. Wait, for Gears? Are you trying to play Gears 2, Jay? How many people can play? Well, actually, fuck, it's only Halo 1. All right, Halo 1, Gears 1. Gears... Am I correct that Gears 2 and 3 let 4 people play co-op campaign? I think Gears 1 is just 2. Yeah, when PS3 have online, it was great, except 2-hour load times whenever you put in a new game for it. Yeah, it did have to. Oh yeah, it had some slow ass fucking. Oh, I already streamed 1 and 2. I'm good. How car? It was a pita. It's a pita. The bread. It was a pain in the ass. God. Yeah. Joe, I knew it. Bring it on, motherfucker. Hey, got something for you. No, no, don't puke through things, bitch. Come on. Ooh! Haha. Fuck yourself. Get some. Stop puking through the wall. I'm glad it doesn't hurt me, but I hate that it does that. I remember trying to buy a game off PlayStation Store, and it's taking up to 2 hours to download, and then it says you need to do an update, and then 3 hours. Yeah, dude, it's still a nightmare, actually. Ooh! Is that enough? Nope. Okay. How about now? Oh shit, I was gonna stab him. I was like, sick. For their little pathetic stab. I want Gears 3 to get remastered. The best one. Said what I said. I'm really mad I didn't see that painting puzzle. Now I got all the bullshit I need. Oh, let me go to the elevator. Let me go save in security. Okay. Alright, we're good. We're getting out of here, guys. Oh, it's locked. I thought it was like locked from the other, like this side. Ooh. Oh, I thought that was chemicals. Alright. Let's go. Ooh. More corrosive I don't need. Power cable. The best Gears of War was 2. There's no debate for that. Oh, I'm debating. There is a debate. And I think they're both great. Gears 3 is objectively the best mechanically, but G1 is still my favorite for the vibes. Yeah, G1 felt so like dire, you know what I mean? See the Baker State from here? And then 2 with that Maria shit, man, that still gets me. And then 3. Dom, what are you doing? I can't do that voice. That's a hard voice to do. Nice. Anya. All right, we're getting out of here, boys. I debate. What's your favorite, Jay? Are you a Gears 2? You're Gears. You like the first of most things. I would bet you like Gears 1 the most. Izzy was one of the best characters, and he was too. I don't think he was in there. Yeah. Is Izzy the cowboy guy? He's the cowboy guy, right? Oh, I remember. The handgun ammo sucks, but the enhanced handgun ammo kind of amazing. That's right. Let's empty this out and then we'll switch. Yeah. He was the cowboy mechanic guy. Yeah, he's in. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler, but I think he's in 4 or 5. I think he comes up again. Am I tripping? Am I making that up? I could be. Oh, elevator. God damn it, Joey. Wait, open. I'm trying to get to what, S2? Yeah. Yeah. What's up, broski? What up, Dead Wolf? Error. One of my mods do some shoutouts. D3 also has the best gun out of all the games, Retro Lancer. The Retro Lancer did grow on me. I remember hating it just because it wasn't like, oh shit, because it wasn't, you know, a Lancer, but, and I think packs a punch. What up, Lemon? What up, Dead Wolf? How's your night going, dude? Come get some. Come get some. Dead? Okay, he is dead. Wait, stop reloading. Actually, no, it's... Oh shit, where? Alive? Okay. What about the laser gun and Gears of War 2 that he used to satellite vaporize you? That's in all of them. Are you talking about the Hammer of Dawn? You're talking about the Hammer of Dawn. That's, I think, in all of them. That's a series staple right there. I do kind of want to just use my regular handgun ammo. Get out of here. Get out of here! Don't give it its jacket. Wee woo. Wee woo. No, I'm trying to get rid of the handgun ammo. Okay, I'll give him the Actually, I'll do some chats real quick. Everybody, lemon wedges.
Oh, I see.
Let's see what we got.
I am surrounded.
I think it's one of the clips I made.
Oh, I got some good hits.
Everybody should give these guys a follow. Lemon Wedges, Dead Wolf are literally like my two best friends.
I'm out. I have no ammo. I'm so fucked.
I just love them so much. Great streamers. Lemon Wedges plays a lot of shooters, tactical games like Ready or Not. I think he streams Helldivers. Do you stream Helldivers? I don't think so. Oh, I misspelled Dead Wolf. Alright, we got Dead Wolf. He is a variety streamer. Did I do it again? Wait, what's wrong? Dead Wolf. Why is it putting a V? Oh my god, sorry. I should really get that shout out thing set up. I'm being an idiot. Wait, why is it spelling it like that? Shout out at Dead, and I'll select it. It's like autocorrecting it to Dead Wolf. That's weird.
Howie.
But yeah, he's a variety streamer, plays a lot of Monster Hunter. He played through Fable, Rogue Galaxies, a lot of RPGs. A lot of them fun games like Repo.
What? I was out of it. See,
check him out.
always the ones that it looks like I'm way out of the fucking fire that I die in, and the ones where I'm still in the fire that I don't die.
Also, we got your boy up in this bitch. Try and get this motherfucker affiliated. I think he has the follows. I think you just need the
Even Superman's like, what the fuck?
Are you affiliated yet?
Who's next?
Damn it, Damien! God damn it, Damien!
I love that game. And then we got Jay up in this motherfucker.
This kid's talking smack.
This guy's played a shit ton of games. He's probably the most consistent streamer that I know personally. Fucking weekdays, every day. Played through all the Castlevania. That guy fucks. He's alright. Got another one of my best friends, the Bloody Kotex. Now he plays a lot of tactical shooters. Tons of Rainbow Six, but he peppers some stuff in there from time to time. And he locks in.
The rice is gone.
Also a very talented guy. He does his own overlays and animations and transitions and all that. That's the bloody difference right there. He plays one tactical shooter. He mixes it up every now and then. Didn't you stream For Honor a couple times? We have another streamer in here that I miss. He's the brother of Jay.
Do your best impression of what you think feels right.
When he does stream, I like his streams because it's usually horror and it's usually indie as hell.
I don't know.
A lot of games that I wouldn't even know about if he wasn't streaming them.
Oh man. Which one was that?
Yeah, this is him and Jay playing together, which they need to do more often because that shit was great.
Something or other.
That's a spot-on impression. He plays these nuts on your chin. He does. He does. That's his favorite game. I play Hunt, I play Fortnite, Warzone, so I'm about to do Battlefield 6. Yeah. Yeah. And then, because I'm a prick, I like my clips. I doesn't stream anymore. I miss his streams. Oh, yeah. This was that one game. It was alright. Killer Frequency?
Oh wow, they really did that thing. You know, like in movies when they start to do the plan and then and then face to black, they did that.
Too busy at the bathhouse glory hole. I mean, look, if you're gonna do something you love, you know, you gotta give it your all. And he's like the Good Will Hunting of glory holes. Dang, I'm just finding handgun ammo. I'm trying to get rid of it. Because I want to use my enhanced stuff. But I guess, you know, yeah. Just use this shit. How you like them apples? What was it? Lion face. Ah, lemon face. Ooh. Yeah, when I was in middle school, there was like a couple years where I'm pretty sure Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was like my favorite movie. Applesauce, bitch. Yep. Anything behind me? Come here, you son of a bitch. They're right on top of it. No, that's not enough. Is it? Oh shit, would you look at that? You like them apples. You got a finger in the chest, you know? Jason Bob Strike Back is a classic movie. Yeah, it is. Oh shit! It's the pukey guy. Alright, follow me, you bastard. Oh shit! Okay, cool. Come on! Do it! Go get me! It's about to and it stops. It's like, fucker's got something up his sleeve. Nice, dude. I've a good amount of that. Actually, while I have these chemicals. Yeah, Shani. Wait, oh, I thought I had herbs. Never mind. Wait. Yeah. It's not a tumor. Oh. Making noises. Why am I moaning? I open that. Oh yeah. Cargo bay? For Ethan? In the cargo bay? I don't remember. Hey yo, Ethan! Ethan! Alright, just checking the corners. You never know. Also, goddamn, this game feels stiff. I'm just used to playing it in VR. What killed the dinosaurs? Ice Age. Classic. That's a good bad movie. That's a certified hood classic right there. Still like this Duke. Oh, stiff like this dick, is that what you meant to say? Banger one-liners, yeah. Fucking Vivica A. Fox. Ooh, why the cold shoulder? And then they have Coolio there. Fucking dumb. Hi, Evilly. Stiff, yeah. Stiff like this Duke, that's a good one.
Ethan.
Hey, BB. Just make out.
Ethan?
Ethan. Oh yeah, this part's kind of heartbreaking.
I know. I'm not gonna hurt you.
How's the audio? Can you guys hear the game just fine?
Would have if I could have helped you.
What do you mean?
I'm no killer.
Want the game louder?
Neither is Marguerite.
Or rate?
Nor my boy Lucas. Or even Zoe here.
Tad quiet. Yeah.
She did this.
What the hell is she? No, what did she do to you?
All right.
She infected us with her gift.
Tad hard.
That's what she calls it.
Let me know if that's too loud or more.
I found her near a busted out tank in the bayou.
It's too loud now. Might be too loud.
Everything changed after that.
So she infects you and then she takes control?
No. Not exactly, son. She just... She forces her way into your mind, your soul. You can't fight back. You are connected to her, and you can't resist the urge to... Oh, you're a different person after that.
Just like Mia. So Mia sent me that message because of Evelyn.
Yeah, Evelyn did it. That
Listen.
bitch.
The girl just has a family of her own. She's the key. All right? You find her, and you stop her. Ethan. Free my family. Please.
Free him with bullets. Does Evelyn sell bathwater in the form of soap bars? No. Not that I think you would want it, because she's technically... Well, technically she's not a kid, but,
He doesn't love you.
you know, it looks like one.
Make him love you.
Don't hurt him.
Silly, I told
Marguerite,
you
though.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
I was kidding. It's disgusting.
Don't you dare.
The big bug bussy.
You're not my mommy. Remember?
Yeah, I think, I think she's mostly
There's no time.
like the E series. I think is experimenting with the mold and fetuses.
What? Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Saving your life.
Oh, you look ugly again.
You need to go.
Bye. I'm hanging out with
I won't
Zoe.
do this for much longer.
No.
Now go kill that little bitch.
Mia! No!
Yeah, no. She was only 2 days from retirement. Damn it. All right, let's go. Have a gun. Fucking, I never have a goddamn gun. Or at least.
Bitch. Where the fuck are you?
Come on. I know he's a dork, but his lines are amazing to me. Like, he's just a guy, you know? Every time he's got to talk shit, he's just, yeah? Fuck you. I think it's the delivery. I miss, what do you say? He's like, I'm coming for you, you little bitch, or something like that. Time to get that little bitch, something like that. But it's just always that, you know? Fuck off. No, you. Like, he kind of reminds me of RE1 Leon, just like if he wasn't a cop. Because RE1 Leon, especially in the original, he's kind of a dork. Like, nobody listens to him. His deliveries. It's up to us to stop Umbrella. Love it. Takes a deep breath. Smells like bitch in here. See, I think even that is too clever for Ethan. Ethan don't even think that. He'd be like, what would Ethan say? What would Ethan say? I should get like a bracelet that says, what would Ethan say? Like, they're not puns. It's not witty at all. It's just about as bland as it gets. For some reason, that's endearing to me. Today is the first he's ever talked shit. But in 2, kind of continues this. Are they watching us from that helicopter? Yeah. Mayday! Mayday!
Alpha 1, this is Bravo 1. Do you read?
Is that RE1 reference?
Report. Did you find anything? A thorough search of the Baker property revealed 0 survivors. Repeat, 0 survivors.
On you make like a tree and fuck off. Yeah.
Negative. However, we did find several encrypted messages from the Baker's son Lucas to an unknown third party. You can probably guess who that was. That's just great. We've had reports he's in the abandoned mine south of the property. I'm gonna go have a look.
I don't think I have to stand here. I think I can listen.
If you encounter Evelyn,
Yep.
orders are shoot to kill. Repeat, shoot to kill.
Nice. Took me as things. Okay. Alright. Maybe I underestimated how much of this game I actually did have left. Smoke bombs are kind of great. Might as well just like stop with the headshots, just unload because I have so much handgun ammo. Even though I really want to use the enhanced. Are there herbs in here? Crank. Ooh, I might need that actually. Oh. Yeah, the Albert one. Gun ammo. Oh, that's right. Wait, shotgun. We'll save you for later. Have the Magnum. Take the herbs. Oh, there's a lot of herbs actually. Why didn't they just combine them? Chem fluid. Shotgun shells. More handgun ammo. Why not? Why not? First aid. I don't think I need corrosive. Machine gun ammo. Yeah. I really wish I stacked everything. That's kind of stupid. Chem fluid. All right, I think we're good. I think we're good. All right, let me just. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Was Mia the one who cut my hand off earlier in the game? Yeah, that's your wife. Actually, I don't even think I need this on me. Evelyn tissue samples? Get out of here. Oh, no, I have to have it on me. Never mind. Scratch that idea. Alright. God damn, 82 rounds of fucking guns. Fuck, I still don't have enough. I should have just beelined for the Magnum. What was I thinking? Well, wait, it didn't stack them, so actually, let me double check. I doubt I have 7, but let me just double check. So there's from the bottom. 4. It's just 4. That was wishful thinking. All right. You bobblehead. Die. Get the fuck out of here. Is there a door? There is a door. Going to the mines, yo! I found out that these tribes in some island coast country where when men get married, they chop off both their arms instead of wearing rings to show their devotion to the marriage. Women work and do everything else while the men stay at home armless. I think they're doing it wrong. Sounds awesome. I'm moving there. The cost of your arms? I don't know. What if it doesn't work out? What if you want a divorce? What if she dies? And you get middle arms like Jax. That's what you do. Or the man with the iron fists. Oh shit! Oh shit! There's a lot of them. Gather round, boys and girls. Then I think you get your arms back. You just have to sew them back on. Damn. You dead yet? There's some behind me. Okay. Also, I should really do the fucking quick turn. Oh, there are more. Ooh. Cool. Yeah, if you get your arms back, then sure. I thought that was the Magnum. I thought that was the Magnum. Oh, no, no. So when you beat the game, you get Wesker's... oh, it's called Wesker's... What's this called? Albert 01R, a functioning replica of the anti-bioweapon handgun. Even though it's a replica, it still packs a punch. Yeah, because at the end of the game, you get this, and I think you have to shoot, like, Evelyn with it or some shit like that. Wesker's Dingus? Yeah, I think that's what it is, if I'm not mistaken. I have a lot of handgun ammo. Ooh, piece of candy. Yas. Should I use my psychostimulants now? Don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. Making sure. Okay. Alright, yeah, they give me some shit. Honestly, I should probably go back for the extra psychostimulants. Oh, wait, what? Oh. I have to wait for it. To get any weapons based off Albert Wesker's weapons from the Resident Evil TV show on Netflix? No, this came out before that. Piece of shit. Fuck that show. Yeah, it's the best show, really. Left or right? Okay. Alright. Psychostimulants would still be working, but I'm keeping my eye out anyway. I have it looping in my house 24/7. The restaurant scene where Wesker freaks out about breadsticks is a classic. Can I disarm this? Will my forehead touch this and kill me? Because I think I can use this for enemies. Ah! Okay. I felt so vindicated when I saw your reaction to that show. Yeah. Yeah. This is my first crash out on the internet. Come on. Mia. Come on, do it. Kill me. Fuck off. Come behind me. Okay, I thought that would have been smart. The developers want to be dicks. Can we ever watch part of the Resident Evil show on Netflix? Here's the thing. If you guys are serious about it, I would kind of be down if it's like a roasting thing where we could just like yell at the show about how dumb it is together as a family, then I'd be down. Otherwise, no. I'm out. Yeah, I know Jay doesn't. I mean, you have better time or better things to do with your time. But if there's like some people that do want to watch it, I don't believe in hate watching. That's fine. I think the show's already canceled, so it's not like they're gonna. I don't think I'm supporting it in a way, but I get it. I do. Oh no, I thought I can get in there. Maybe I can just from somewhere else. Alright, wait, now what? Oh. What are you up to tonight? Are you playing, no, you said you finished, or are you still playing your, Phantasy Star Online? Go down here. I don't have a Magnum. Just chilling right now. Heard that. Honestly, I kind of underestimated these remote bombs. They're pretty clutch. Where? Yep. Wait, are you still alive? Oh, okay. I thought you were dying. Watch, there's gonna be a fight where I'm actually gonna really want those and I'm gonna be out, but I have all this fucking other shit. I'm good. Look at all my machine gun ammo. Oh shit. Is there more? Okay. Wait. Try and conserve ammo. Fucking die! Finally. Jesus. Oh, the way they crawl around like that. No, that's pretty good. Honestly, I'm surprised the handgun is... I mean, it's barely viable, but I'm just using it to conserve ammo for my big boy stuff. And I have better handgun ammo that I'm trying to get to also. Oh, could I run past them and just launch this at them? Yeah. Oh, I also have to progress, it seems. But let me see what's up here first. A whole lot of nada. Cool. Oh. Alright. Fine. Hey, yo, is there an item box up in here? Oops. What are you up to, Lemon? Sorry if you already answered that. Playing anything? Or are you just chilling as well? Chill. Chill. He's fapping. Oh, what the fuck? Damn it. God damn it, Castle. That's me. Lemma's in here? No, I said Lemon. Oh, okay. I really gotta be careful. Fucking Lucas. He left more of these goddamn law traps. Here we go. Friday, January 16th, 2015. God, forever ago. Thanks to you guys, it's been about a week since my head's been clear and back to normal, and she still thinks she's got me. You guys really need to work on fixing that. Not only does she look like a kid, but she's also about as stupid as one too. Mom and Dad are totally under though. I was wondering, is this whole family obsession something you guys programmed into her? It's kind of fucked up. Friday, November 4th, 2015. That bitch Mia is still somewhere between Eva La La Land and reality. She gets pretty violent, so I locked her up in the cell. I thought maybe Evelyn would get mad since Mia's her favorite and all, but she doesn't seem to care. She's actually goes and visits her sometimes, but she thinks Mia's her mommy. Like I said, your bioweapon is fucked up. Evelyn's family obsession is getting out of hand. She's making everyone kidnap more and more assholes off the streets. Add to her freak show of a family. Maybe she's getting tired of Mia not coming around, but it's a pain in the ass for me because I gotta clean up the mess whenever someone who comes along. By the way, Evie's looking sick or something. Her skin's getting all wrinkly and she's getting gray hairs. Is that supposed to happen? It's almost like she's getting old all of a sudden. Being lazy, keep thinking about playing something, but then I'm just like, respect it. Sometimes, not every night has to be a game night, you know? It's just nice to look up at my screen, at my game night. This is perfect for like an item box or something. Infection report. Five minutes after a dose, vomiting. E-necrotoxin, E-series dosage test. 10 minutes after dose, death. 12 minutes after dose, cell calcification. Target acquired. I wish my watch did that. It's a little BB. E-necrotoxin destroys cells of any subject based on the E-series bioweapon model. Used only for disposal of E-series assets. Toxin must first be stimulated for use. Do this by placing a sample of an E-series cells into the necrotoxin container. I play something if you beat this soon. I'm almost done. I'm almost there. Like, this is the final stretch. This project was instigated in 2000 as one of the several concepts for the company's NextBus, Next Generation Experimental Battlefield Superiority initiative, working with technical assistance from HCF to develop a bioweapon for neutralizing combatants in mass with minimal direct contact. NextBus was later folded and all its assets diverted to this project. What makes this project markedly different from the conventional weapons is its ability to turn enemy combatants into allies, converting hostile elements into willing servants. Since this effectively eliminates the cost of not only prisoners of war handling, but also combat itself, it's no wonder he had the blank and even blank's blank organization chopping at the bit to get on board. Oh, that's the project would have never existed were it not for the discovery in blah 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 of blah. The remarkably progressed vicariant evolution fungus that we commonly term the mutamycete. The fabrication method for each bioweapon was introduced to introduce the megamycete genome to pre-stage 4 human embryo and perform cultivation in a controlled environment over the period of 38 to 40 weeks. The result organisms were referred to as candidate specimens and graded based on usability from the impractical to faulty. Series A through D to the perfected E series. The common appearance was selected for by the bioweapons that roughly of a 10-year-old girl to ensure ease of blending in with urban refugee populations. First E-series specimen named Evelyn is proven capable of secreting the metamycete from her tissue at will. It is also of note that Evelyn's metamycete imposes a profound control over her body and mind when introduced into the host organism. We have a lot to learn about the mechanism by which Evelyn achieves and maintains this control, but the working theory is that the vector is similar to the auto-inducer pheromones used for quorum sensing the Pseudomonas bacteria. Evelyn's control is exerted in a series of discrete stages, the first of which is hallucination. Almost immediately after infection, the subject begins to see images of Evelyn, though she is not in fact there, and even hear her voice, which is inaudible to anyone else. Auditions with infected subjects throughout the stages of infection reveal that at first, the phantom Evelyn appears to be a normal young girl, sometimes desiring companionship or assistance. As time progresses, she begins making more and more extreme demands, including self-mutilation and attacks on other people. The psychological shock this induces helps break down the mind's natural barriers to Evelyn's brainwashing effect, and by the time mental control is achieved, the mutamycete infection has progressed throughout the body cells, so the body... Bars. Literal bars. I want to save. More! Evelyn's functions also include the ability to form organisms from the mycelia, the fungal filaments. The term organism is used loosely here. Strictly speaking, they are superorganisms formed of countless mycelia. What's important, though, is that they exhibit a strong survival instinct and will defend themselves ferociously. With the slightest provocation, the fungal toughness and remarkable strength give them significant battlefield potential. The researchers have been calling these superorganisms the molded, made of mold. Also, molded as in shaped. It is has a certain elegance to it. Very nice.
Shut up, bitch!
You son of a bitch. For the treatment of accidental infections, performing blank on samples of Evelyn's body tissue produces a unique fungicidal serum. Administering the serum to an infected subject will cause the mycelia to calcify, and if the subject's cells are already largely invaded, the serum will be fatal. Since the treatment window is so small, the serum's primary use is therefore disposal of infected subjects rather than a cure. In exploring the serum's potential, we found that subjecting it to blank would enhance the effects to extreme potency, becoming a compound that we call the E-necrotoxin, which blank in tiny amounts.
Hey, that's enough of that.
What's been interesting to observe in Evelyn's behavior is her obsession with the concept of family. In experiments, we found on multiple occasions that the infected subjects were compelled to act as their mother or father, treating her as if she were really their daughter. Why does she settle upon family as a theme for her mental control? Just speculation, but it could also be that she instinctively understands that a family unit is better suited to blending into social groups than the lone girl. On the other hand, while sentimental sort might suggest that she's making up a perceived lack of love in her quarantine upbringing, a parent's love.
I'm upset.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
These are funny. Thank you for the redeems. Yay! Yay! What else we got? Oh, hell yeah. Right on, brother. Thank you. Let's do not gunpowder. Where's the flamer solid fuel? There we go. We're gonna make more of these. God damn it, you froze it. You fuckers. I didn't even notice. Well, I can't have nice things. Where is it? Mix it up. Properties. Refresh cache of current page. Bastards. Alright, fixed it. Don't let it happen again. Alright, combine with this. I like that one. That's a good one. those back. I think I'm good on healing. I'll put the chemicals back. You know what? No. I'm gonna mix them. And those, I don't need those right now. But I'm actually gonna, where's gunpowder? Here we go. Got like one.
Calling this in. Put your hands behind your back.
This is the best one. God damn it, Gazo! That movie's such a fucking blast. Because honestly, the I'll save. Wait, oh shit! I mean, do that. The handgun, kind of hitting. Go around. Oh shit! Any other hidden fucking cookies in here? Little treats, greedy treats. I've been good. Save. Best Punisher. He really is.
You
Hey, look, it's me trying to read. It's me trying to read. What? Get the fuck out. Oh, actually, let me save again. No, what are you doing? What are you doing, Joey? Oh, because yeah. Yeah, I'm literally almost done. I'm gonna have to fight for my life, and then... Yeah, you'll see. I'm almost done. Like the final boss area is coming up. Also, just for convenience, I'm gonna save anyway, because fuck you! Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me! Alright. Can I even go in there? Okay, good. Against. Ooh, and where is he? I hear you. I hear the bobblehead. Probably down here. Yeah, it's down there. Where all the monsters are gonna be. Find him now. On the other side. I mean, it's no big deal. Dang, man. Tell me I'm gonna fight a boss without telling me I'm gonna fight a boss. Or I think they're gonna do like the gauntlet thing where I just have a fuck ton of these guys to kill. Wait, so what's my objective now? Kill Evelyn with the necrotoxin? And do. Sorry, she's fucking has a zoom. She's still playing with the fucking the blinds. It scares me. Actually, yeah. Should I? I'll do it. Yep, I knew it. Tight. Oh, god damn it, I don't even have a fucking map. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, dang, I would have missed these. Anything else? Side. Tight. Alright, what are you doing, bitch? What are you doing, girl? Yep. Wrong button. Wrong weapon. Fuck you! Oh, shit! Well, I got those ones. That look kind of cool. This guy, at least. I mean, I'm just that good, even though I took a little damage. And I got a little flustered. Be honest here. Also, watch out for tripwires. Oh, my eye. Oh shit, wait, where'd you come from? Stop it. Fuck off. Any more? I really gotta stop the... I need to utilize the quick turn more. I hear you, I think. Oh yeah, let me reload. Bro was sweating. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Heads up. Nice. 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 Behind me? Okay. Oh shit. Oh shit. Wait, wait, wait. Wait, I mean to crouch. Wrong button. Alright, that's empty now. Fuck. Alright, it's okay. Why did we fall, Boosh? Why did we fall? So we can get back up. Ooh. What is that? What is that? All right. I'm so scared. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, wait, wait. Oh, it's just you. Oh shit, it's two of them! Ah! Oh shit, that's a huge bitch! Oh shit, I'm out, I'm out! Wait, 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 wait! Oh shit. Oh man. Oops. All right, yeah. Yeah. All right, let me readjust my inventory. Because I keep pressing the wrong thing, thinking it's something else. That's on me, though. That's on me. So, let's use the other one now. The full health. Wait, oh shit. Can I walk over this? I can. Oh, wait! Oh, no! Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go back for that, grenade launcher. Can I? Am I too far back? I might be. And actually, it might be. I wasted my shotty! Alright, you know what? Check this shit out. Oh, I didn't know they could do that. Wait. Wait, fucker. Ah! Ah! I'm gonna die right now. Yeah. Joey. You're tough! And playing this with a fucking controller sucks. Here, let me see if I can run back. Honestly, I do have the perfect weapon. I just didn't bring it. And I think it might be blocked, Joey. I know. I need an item box. I need it now! Rip, yeah. I mean, it happens. Need some, wait. Need something that packs a little bit more of a punch. I think this does go this way, right? Oh! Okay. Like, okay, for a second I thought I turned right back around. Playing with the controller. So I couldn't get to fucking launch on PC after a while, so I gave up, got frustrated, and I was like, I need to stream. So I said fuck it, and I just started playing the PS5 version. This is the PS5 version with the controller. It's okay, if this connects, fucking better. Yeah. The size of a barn door, I move like 2 miles per hour. Yeah, but I move like half a mile an hour. And they're spongy. You saw me empty a whole clip into those motherfuckers. Okay, cool. Wait, did I pass it? Oh, it's up here. Also, fuck you! You bitch! It's time to retire the handgun for now, probably. I have more than enough machine gun ammo. And don't have a magnum. Alright, I might get more shotgun ammo. Chem fluid. Chem fluid. Herb. And then a grenade launcher. Alright. Alright. I'm safe. Actually, no. Actually, I'm safe because I don't know if it'll actually keep a checkpoint over there. You know, like I don't know if that checkpoint updates. Then I don't want to have to backtrack and get all this again if I do die. You know? So... that didn't do shit. Ah, it was a waste. I thought I could at least move me up one status, like in the OG ones. Alright. Alright, let's go! I wish I had more shotgun ammo. Shoot a few of these at them. I should leave one of the mines, actually, but they kind of spin on them if I'm too far, and it just blows up, so I don't know. What do you think? What's the strat, chat? Should I try knocking them down with the remote bomb? Then finish him off with this or something? Wait, is it this way? No, it's this way. That's right. Try not sucking? Yeah, I could try that. Thanks, that's exactly what I needed. This is my anime pep talk. This is right before Denji does shit. Try giving the Gok Gok 3000. I don't think that'll work. I don't think they're into that. But it's just crazy enough to try. Oh shit. Back here? Fuck off! Ah! Okay, that worked. See, it just took a little extra firepower. I was so scared. It's like that, what was it from Workaholics? I almost died! I should actually have that as a redeem. Or is that crying? Make sure, oh, yeah, there's some stuff. I need that. I'd be playing. Everybody's watching. They're probably like, oh, brother, this guy stinks. Pretty much. You probably did go, Joey, like IRL.
I'm proud of you, you know that.
Liar.
I hope you do.
Mind map. I'm almost done. We're there yet? Oh, I think we are. Holy shit. Actually, I'm not sure if that was it. I could be merging some stuff from Not a Hero. Not a Hero takes place like in these mines. Tunnels, whatever you call them. They're mines. Drugs. Yep. Hear it. Love me. Where's that bobblehead at? Oh, there you are. Break yourself, fool. Oh shit.
It's not here. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, this is the ending of the game basically. Like one thing to do here. Let me get moving. Wait, actually unlock. I was just checking. I don't have my psychostimulants on me. I don't have more drugs, so the E001, and then just be like, oh, it's the old lady the whole time. Have I been known that? Did you know that, Lemon? You beat this bastard. Bloody bastard. You bloody. Nice, the game ends where it began. Alright, let me see Ethan's face. Let me see Ethan's face. I saw it. Hey, bitch. How you doing? Hi.
This is your fault.
Fuck you.
Why am I seeing this?
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay. It's me.
Ethan, you tripping, dog.
I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
Kill him, Mommy.
It fucking hurt.
But you shouldn't have done that. It fucking hurt.
Does it want to be my daddy?
Would.
Can die.
Still.
Now it's
Yeah, someone needs to match her freak.
kill you.
One in the attic, right? I forget. It is what you want? I think it is, actually. I can fix her. Mommy, no! God, dang it, Robin. Yeah, I think this is where everything starts. Coming, babe. Almost there, babe. You're always safe around me, babe. Oh, what do I do? Maybe not, babe. All right, girl. Marco! Oh, we're reliving this shit. Wait, is she actually gonna chase me? Ah! Wait, really? Oh. Actually, don't remember that. She break through the wall. Yeah.
Where the fuck are you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Have to go back downstairs? Probably. I guess that's what you're telling me. Kitchen? Outside? Actually, I think it is outside. Yep. Get back here, bitch.
You're gonna be one of us. And then maybe you'll play nicely.
I'm not playing.
No! Get that away from me!
No.
Leave me to die.
Do I do this? Okay. I'm not even sure. I probably just wasted ammo. But you know what? Come on, game. Hidden passage? Wait. Hold on. No, open the fucking door. How about that? Damn it. Alright. Time to, take your medicine or something. Didn't even hesitate to clap your wife. Fuck her. For all we've gone through. Dude, I tried to melee her. Yeah. Clap that wife. Blah, blah. Oh, I did say hidden oh, wait. Hidden passage in here? Oh, hey. You do great right here now. I want a divorce! Let me the fuck out. Where the hell is Evelyn? I want to go home! Okay. Upstairs. Now the door opens, I think. It made me have to do all... Oh, shit. Yeah, calm down. Honey, we'll talk when you've calmed down. You're acting hysterical right now. There she is. I see you, fucker. Actually, hold on. I'll need some chapstick. Alright. Hell yeah. I don't remember what to do here. I do remember dying, but I think I just have to block, crouch. Oh yeah. Am I even taking damage? I don't know. So you're acting like your mother and she'll call him out. Yeah, you're acting like your mother. Actually, dude, I might die. Hold on, I think I fucked that up. Hold on, wait, Mia. I'm gonna stay over here. Wait, not Mia. Alright. I'm gonna die if you don't fucking calm down real quick. Ask if she's on her period. Jesus. That's right, acting like such a bitch. Alright.
Get away! Away from me! Stop! Stop! Stop!
No.
No! 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 No!
This part's kind of cool. Talk to this duke.
You.
Sorry, Grandma. Grandma, your fungal core is showing. Damn yous all to hell. This part's actually kind of cool. Oh fuck, wait. I do remember this part. Grandma! Grandma, no! Grandma, what the fuck? Grandma! Grandma, I'm scared! That was dope. Ask her what that mouth do. Grandma, what that mouth do? Put on some Matlock. Give her some prune juice, Jesus. That was it, Lemon? Grandma! Grandma, stop it! Fuck you, Grandma! Get him, Skeeter! What up, devil? Now come on, Cletus. She ain't bothering nobody. Meanwhile, Grandma! Grandma, no!
I just murdered a family.
Fuck your family! Or Ethan just say some shit like that. Am I doing this right? Am I supposed to be shooting my foot or her face? Ah! Okay. How about getting some wood? Oh, dude, I'm dead! That was clearly like 5 stories I just fell. No. You have super plot armor, yeah. Wait. Oh, did I get it? Sorry, Grandma. Didn't want to do that, but you're being kind of a bitch. What would Ethan say? That's how the cookie crumbles. Nice. Ethan would say, yeah, bitch. Yeah. Oh, is the game too loud now? I see it peeking over there. You just beat it? So, apparently I never actually finished the PS5 version. I beat it on PS4, and I liked replaying it in VR, and the PS5 version doesn't support VR. So, this is my first time, I guess, technically beating the PS5 version. You know what I mean? Yas. Yas Queen. Slay. Work. Oh fuck, still alive? That was Chris? That was Chris. That was little BB Chris though. And then they were like, guys, we realized our mistake, and they fucking jacked him up in the next one. They brought Boulder Chris back.
They say that when one door closes, another opens. Well,
Yeah. 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 They fly now? They fly now.
me and I weren't the only victims here. So were the Bakers. It was that thing.
I was gonna say he looks completely different in the next one. So the problem is apparently, I don't see why they just didn't get the people they had before, but like for the RE engine, I think you have to actually scan people. Do all the REs finish with the helicopter right away? Yeah, it's part of the formula. I feel like they do this every time. They do. Like, I can't think of a single one that doesn't, to be honest. I think even Outbreak might end with a helicopter, right? But yeah, it's part of the thing, you know, you walk into a what the fuck, like some sort of chaotic situation, and then after that you get your resources, you find the threat, you assess it, and slowly but surely you find out what's actually happening, and by that point you end up in the labs and stuff. Did 4 in the helicopter was a jet ski? Oh, okay, there you go. 4 was a jet ski. But the Separate Ways ends with the helicopter. That helps. 0 out of 10. So cookie cutter. Yeah, there's always like some sort of bomb or something at the end, or something that kind of force you out. And then yeah, the helicopter exit. Spooky. It was like the intro for American Horror Story. This Resident Evil was cool and all, but it was no Resident Evil 6. They stick to the formula that works. I like it. And then the thing I liked about this one was like, it really was a return to form. Like, despite the fact it's first person, this is that RE1 experience, just, you know, updated. And then they just went Resident Evil 4 anyway in the next one. Like, first person Resident Evil 4? Yeah, this was cool, but there's no Resident Evil Netflix show. And stop! Stop! Oh, tantrum. We're just... Nice. That's actually one of my favorite emotes. That I think that emote is underused. Yeah, I beat it. Yay! Next up, on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, is the DLC. Would you have the scene of Wesker freaking out in the restaurant over breadsticks from the Netflix show for a Redeem? No. I don't want anything to do with that show for a Redeem. Maybe. The only one that I think is funny is the one that Bloody has, and it's because he made it me in there. It's the fucking Dua Lipa one, Dua Lipa scene. I have Redemption on my, yeah, that one. That's the one, and it's amazing. It is pretty good. Best part of the show. Honestly, I'm trying to think of like what my favorite scene would be. I really did. I mean, credit where it's due. I really do think that they had like, as far as live action goes, the best representation of the puzzles in one episode. Had Joey, and Joey's a cherry on top. Yeah, he added me in it. He put like a brother, he put my face on the black chick in the show. I forgot her name. Jade? No. I think it's Jade. It's something like that. Or is her sister Jade? Doesn't matter. The show sucks. Are we there yet? Skip movie. Sorry, everybody else. Really? Skip. Nice. 9 hours. That's basically 10 hours. 15 deaths. Ooh. I'm missing 2 Mr. Everywheres. Fuck. Missing 4 coins. I'm missing a lot of files. Item box open, 93. That's a lot. Healing items used, 44. That's a lot. Stabilizing steroids. Right on, brother. This is why I don't play RE. Because the credits. So I'm not going to do it tonight, but my next stream is going to be trying to do all the DLC, which I think each one is like 1 or 2 hours. So I could do both in a stream, but I'm also stupid and slow, so we'll see. All I've seen of the show are the meme clips. That's all the show is. There's that. There's the stupid boat scene where she like brings, like she just bypasses security protocols to just bring a zombie on the ship, gets her friend killed, her daughter almost eaten. Sorry, spoilers for a show that sucks dick. That fucking show. I'm getting mad again. Stop it. You can't keep getting away with this. Boop. Okay, let's see. Oh, you know what? Where is it? Do I have fuck, I don't think I have it anymore. I got rid of my I probably got the resolution treatment, so it's squared, but I have a RE waiting room thing I need to bring back. Anyway. That was fun. Can you pull up the clip on YouTube of Wesker freaking over breadsticks? I really don't want to. I don't like the show. I might lose the viewers I'm trying to raid with. But fine. It's fucking stupid. Resident Evil breadsticks. Alright, hold on. Turn this on. On. Alright. The whole show is stupid, which begs the question, did they do it on purpose? Probably.
These are legit.
Here's your precious goddamn scene.
More breadsticks.
Looks like you still have a few left.
Oh, no. This is my unlimited basket. They need their unlimited baskets.
I'm sorry, sir. It's 1 per table.
But that's a limit.
Dad, it's no big deal.
It is a big deal because it's not unlimited.
As soon as you finish your basket, I can...
You know what? Fine. There. Finished. You girls want one of my sticks while we wait?
Also, in the show's defense... Oh, God, I wish I'd never said that. Technically... Oh, nice, it's doing the loop. Cool. Technically... That's just a clone, a different personality. No show defense, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna get unfollowed. No, I caught myself. I was like, in the show's defense, and I'm like, what the fuck am I saying? Show's awful. Anywho, let's see who's live, what they're playing. Let's see. I love that actor, but he was nothing like Wesker. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. So there's plot reasons why they are acting different. Spoilers, but he's a clone of Wesker. There's like several clones in the show, and they'll have different personalities. So none of them act like him because they're not him technically, but whatever. Like, I love the actor too. I don't even think he was an awful choice. I think really it's just the writing, you know. The plot reason, show sucks. Yeah, no, yeah, it fucking sucks. The writing. The only thing I will say is, like I said, the puzzles. Like, there's an episode dedicated like effectively solving a puzzle, and I was like, that's kind of clever the way they like incorporated that from the game. Like, that was good. And the monsters look cool. Zombies look like shit. The tone is all over the fucking place. Like, I think they tried to satisfy people that were fans of the games and the show or the movies. Which I am a fan of both, but pick one, because it doesn't. It's like oil and water, dude. It's... Ah! Who the fuck is live so I can raid them? Frogs Cure Cancer. He seems cool. He's playing Tekken 8. I love when studio get the rights to a property that everybody loves and decides to just change everything about it, right? Which one's Agatha? They're playing Metal Gear Solid 1. Oh, they're playing Snake Eater Delta. How long's the stream been? Are you leaving? Yeah, you guys want to see some Metal Gear Delta? I can raid them. I mean, oh, never mind. They're having technical issues right now. God damn it. We got Basti Nicole. Which one is it? Oh yeah, she was nice. Playing Mario. Yo, spoiler. How do you think Lance feels? Lance Reddick? How do you think Lance feels knowing that the show was the last thing he did before he died? It actually wasn't. I think technically, John Wick 4 was probably why he died. Vintage Potato is playing Cult of Lamb. Sonia Asahina is playing Claire Obscure. You guys want to watch that? She has like 71 viewers, so she doesn't need a raid, but she's cool. Let me see if this person fixed their Metal Gear yet. Oh, that sucks. Alright, yeah, we're gonna raid aka E33. Yeah. When's Rudy playing a Final Fantasy? Yeah, we're gonna raid oh, wait. Frog Cures can't. Yeah, you guys want some Tekken? Tekken or E33? First one to say it. We're raiding E33. Resident Evil. Oh yeah, let's see. That's probably good. Let's see who's playing Resident Evil right now. That's what I should be doing. What am I doing? Let's see who's playing the original. Almost Critical. Playing RE6. Weevil Enthusiast. Name. Nobody I know. That's unfortunate. I'd rather raid people I know, but fine. Okay, Sun Beto is. Let's do somebody who speaks English. Sorry, it shouldn't be this hard. When are we gonna tell games Resident Evil? Never. They don't exist, bruh. The plan Biohazard. Alright, this person seems alright. Just raid myself. Alright. We're gonna raid F-Fizzy. Alright, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad I beat this one. We have DLC left. That's gonna be the next stream. Tomorrow. All I know is I'm clocking out right now. I'm gonna go home and stream some more Detroit. Nice. I'll definitely have your stream up. Bye, everybody. Bye.